everyone, and thanks for joining us for US Awakens Week. My name is Marije from Tiqets, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the virtual tour at Florida Aquarium. And here you can experience the beauty of aquatic animals with interactive and immersive galleries diving deep into the world of Florida's natural habitat and other ecosystems. Now, this is a virtual experience as part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is a 6-week celebration of the reopening of over 100 museums and attractions in 6 countries around the world. And these venues have worked day and night to reimagine their experiences and introduce new hygiene measures to make it safe for you to visit again. And now these venues are rolling out the welcome mat with these online experiences for those who aren't able or willing to travel yet, but still want to experience and reawaken cultural institutions worldwide. Now we will start the experience at the Florida Aquarium very soon now, but as people are still joining us, I will kick us off by sharing some logistical info about what to expect and how to use the Zoom. If you have any questions for the presenters, you can submit them through the Q&A button at the bottom in the center of the Zoom window. You will have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to send them through, and we will try to answer as many as possible at the end of the session. And you can also vote on your favorite question by giving a thumbs up so that we ask the best questions first. This is a Zoom webinar, so your camera will not be on, but you can use the chat to communicate with fellow attendees and the speakers. So you can, for instance, share with us where you're joining us from, or if you've been to the Florida Aquarium before, or just leave your reactions during the session by using the chat to message all panelists and attendees. If you have any technical difficulties, please use the chat to send a message to all panelists, and we will try to help you out as soon as possible. And if you're having trouble with the audio from your own end, usually leaving and rejoining the webinar is often the easiest fix for this problem. And then finally, this presentation will be recorded, and we will be sending the recording to all registrants in the coming week. Now, this is it basically from my end, and without further ado, I'm more than happy to hand over to our host for this virtual experience, Eric, who is going to transport you to the world of the largest aquarium in Florida. So Eric, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Terrific. I am ready right now. And welcome everyone to join us on this virtual tour of the Florida Aquarium. My name is Eric Hovland. I'm the curator and the proud shark guy here at the Florida Aquarium, where we have now been open and we're celebrating 25 years in downtown Tampa. And I'm very proud to have been a member of that team for over 25 years and opening the aquarium all those years ago. We're going to tour through the Florida Aquarium, which is open now. We are practicing social distancing. I'm going to rarely shed my mask today just so that I can share the aquarium with you and make sure I can hear you and answer your questions clearly. And let's get started right now with starting off right here at the Florida Aquarium in downtown Tampa, close to really everything in Florida, from the beaches 30 minutes away to the streetcar line that could take you into historic Ybor City, that can take you to the arena to watch our sports teams in the future, just to have fun all around. But we're gonna have some fun today at the Florida Aquarium, get to know all the wildlife that you're gonna see here today from Florida and borders beyond. Follow me into the Florida Wetlands. We're walking into the Florida Wetlands right now. You'll notice we're going through some limestone caves. And the first habitat that we're going to visit right here is the Florida Springs. When I think of the Florida Springs, I like to think of them as the third coast of Florida. Yes, we've got the Gulf Coast with its beautiful white sand beaches from Pensacola all the way down to the Florida Keys. We have the Atlantic coastline from Jacksonville down to the Florida Keys. We also have the springs, beautiful springs of fresh, cool water that dot throughout central Florida. You can dive in these, snorkel, you can get a refreshing dip in the middle of a steamy summer, and it's also a wealth of wildlife. And we're also right over the Florida Aquifer, just the beginning of the water story here at the Florida Aquarium, where everything, life starts with water, and that water bubbles up and percolates through the limestone to our Florida streams and rivers and springs that you can visit on your visit to Florida, just about an hour north of Tampa Bay. We're gonna walk now into the Florida Wetlands on the Wetlands Trail. and tell you to keep your eyes peeled for hundreds of animals in here, not just aquatics like our fish and our terrapins. Look at this family of fish. We did not start with this many fish in this habitat, and that is typical of habitats you'll see at the Florida Aquarium. They're truly homes to the animals. And what better way to celebrate that than to celebrate life with fish reproducing and spawning. Our birds have grown their families. We're going to meet our spoonbills in just a little bit, those pink iconic birds of Florida. And in fact, speaking of icons, look what we have right ahead of us. Florida's beautiful American alligators. Coming up for a breath is one of our lovely ladies. We have two alligators in here. I love to get that fish's eye view of the alligator. You can note they've got special coloration. It helps them actually act like sunblock and reflect the light so they can see and alert and find their prey. Alligators are wonderful parts of Florida. And in fact, that's where the beginning of the conservation story starts. Alligators were almost removed from Florida, but with proper protection and environmental stewardship, we have brought the American alligator back strongly in the Florida wilds. And it's a great message for conservation. What's Florida without alligators? It just wouldn't be the same. Might as well be in Georgia. We love you, Georgia, but we love our alligators. That's the swamp of the alligator's habitat. But here's another iconic animal of the Florida rivers, the American river otter. Different than the sea otters, they're a little smaller, but just as fun to watch. And right now they're getting some very important enrichment. That is an ice block. It probably has something tasty that at least smells terrific, like fish encased in that ice block, as well as up here, our two American river otters. We've got Brandon and the Kraken, and they are enjoying breakfast. And why just have breakfast from a bowl when you can have it off of your own personal ice bar? That's right, they're digging into some cut up meat and different bit and fish that are part of an otter's natural diet. But we always like to make it interesting and creative, and we call that enrichment. Enrichment is a big part of all of our animal care here. The health and wellness of our animals is at the top notch. It's a premium in that we always give our animals the best care, and animals in the wild, they have jobs. They have to hunt for their food. They have to look and explore and find how they're going to fill their day. And otters also play like crazy, but we give them creative ways to explore their environment. Hey up, duck. That's one of our black-bellied whistling ducks. Listen to that call. Now, when you hear that out in the wild, you know that's a black-bellied whistling duck. I think that's just a great sign of the vitality and health and happiness of our animals. They're acting like their wild counterparts, because we really do create here in this enormous glass-domed wetlands environment. I just want to let you listen to that song. Now, what they're doing is saying, hey, this is my home. You know what? Back off, because that's my lady friend over there, and she's all mine. This is just one of the habitats of the swamps of Florida. And you'll notice a theme here. We're going from the freshwater environment. It's going to get a little salty as we walk along here, in that, look at you. This is the mangrove forest. This is one of our proudest achievements here at the Florida Aquarium. I have watched this forest grow. And when I say grow, I mean all of this foliage is alive. Whereas 25 years ago, we might have had to have an artificial tree here or there, because these mangroves were just getting started. They start life as a propagule, and that's what's happening right here. These seed pods drop down from the wild mangroves. They float ashore and plant themselves in the soil. And what's important, that's how the mangrove forest grows. And the mangroves are so critical to tropical coastlines of Florida and worldwide in protecting our environment. When we see storms and waves coming in, knowing that we've got a protective arsenal of mangrove forests. Look at this. If I'm a wave and I've got to crash through that environment, you know I'm going to slow my roll, because that's how we protect our coastlines, by protecting the wilds and beauty of Florida. And we're celebrating that forest right here, 25 years of growth. This is true forest of mangroves, and it is a home and nursery for fisheries fish that we might see on our table later, like a red drum or a snap. But this is a way for us to celebrate the fish and animals that we see all around Florida. Oh, look to your right. All right. That is a great blue heron, and also a great example of the rescue birds that you'll meet here at the aquarium. Now, if you wouldn't know it from looking, but that great blue heron is missing its right wing. An accident in the wild that would have been curtains. That would have been the end of that animal's life had it not been rescued and rehabilitated and found a home here at the Florida Aquarium, where he's been a member of our family now for years. Learning to rebalance and be a part of the environment is one of our commitments to helping these animals have long lives and be stewards for their wild counterparts, to help everyone connect with the wilds. You can't always get out to go see the wilds of Florida, but you can see them today. Madagascar is a whole other journey, but we're going to round the corner here to meet another of our rescue birds, our brown pelicans. Brown pelicans are another great example of comeback kids. They were almost hunted to extinction back century of the previous century, but they have made a great comeback. And both of these animals, Theo and Josh, are rescues. You can see that the wing is abbreviated on Josh over there, and then our young'un Theo is right up front. You can tell that he's a young one because he's still just changing his colors from brown on top to starting to get that mature white coloration like you can see over there on Josh. They are great examples, again, of the iconic wildlife of Florida. Oh, we just passed some more icons, our young alligators. All right, alligators don't start off that big. These are little gators that you can see in the wilds of Florida too. They hatch out about a foot long, about 8 inches long. And in fact, they make a little chirping sound to let mom know that, hey, we're ready to go. And mom will come and open up the nest. They are wonderful parents and help them right down to the water. It kind of sounds like, ow, ow, ow. And then that's the little guy saying it's time to go. Here we see parrotfish. You can see just how those come down to the water and provide a home and a shelter for young fish to grow and eventually move out to the coral reefs. Well, here we go. We've made it through the wetlands. We could spend all day in here, and I encourage you to do so when you come to visit. There are over 100 birds up in the habitat, including those roseate spoonbills. So they're big spoon paddle bill, and they're the bright pink birds that you see in Florida. We have a whole family there, but I think they're still snoozing, still a little early here at the Florida Aquarium. We're really proud of our spoonbill family, not to be confused with flamingos. You got to go a little further south to meet them. Well, here we are in the bays and beaches. Don't be fooled by the carpet. We have opened up and entered the marine environment now. A lot of the animals that you might see right outside of the sandbar, the various jacks, and there goes a grouper right up top, an iconic Florida fish. And one of the first rays that we're just getting to meet right now, and this is a snook up front too. I know our friendly fishermen recognize the snook. It's a really fun fish to encounter out in the wild, and they're speedy. Now we are going to see a whole variety of habitats of animals that you would meet around the bays and beaches areas of Florida. I do want to pause just for a second to point out some fish that are really easy to pass right by, and there's some of my favorites. These are batfish. Now, you might think of batfish out in the Pacific as a very different looking fish, kind of shaped like a boomerang, but this is also a batfish species. What's unique about them is they do perch on the bottom like that. And if you look back and forth, you might just see one of them wiggling its little fishing lure right at the tip of its nose. And that's because, oh, here it goes to the right. Check them out how they walk. It's really something to see how they use their fins to walk right across the bottom of the sand. We'll find these in the shallow waters right under our local fishing piers. You can find batfish. Here's another one too, taking just a few steps. That usually means they're getting ready to go fishing. They are ambush predators. It's just one of the myriad of fish that you probably didn't even know existed around Florida. They're weird and funky, and I love them. All right, we're gonna meet a lot of other fish as we walk on through the habitats here. You can see small and large, right up to spiny lobsters. We've got 2 different varieties here. And well, I think it's kind of cool to note too, we're doing a little bit of maintenance here. We're always caring for our animals, be that cleaning up, maybe leftover food, doing a partial water change. Right there, she's got a little vacuum going. We do vacuuming, we do windows, we do it all here. And these are spotted spiny lobsters. Check out those long whip antennae. Different than your Maine lobster. They don't have those big claws. They're modified into long whips, which they use to explore their environment and find their food. Garden eels. What else can you say? But it is a garden of eels. I know these have been famous around the world, all the way over in Japan. They had their own webcam. Here, you can come and see them yourself. And our garden ales welcome you to the Florida Aquarium. They do live in their little sand tubes. They're really just something to see, especially when you see them out in the wild by the thousands. Now we're going under one of the bridges. That would be, again, a way to cross over the bridge to nearby St. Pete and those beaches about 30 minutes away. Like I said, we do windows. We're still doing them right now. Puffapalooza, that's what I like to call it. These are little balloon fish or puffer fish, spiny puffer fish, and they are fascinating to watch as they interact. You really don't see a habitat like this very often with a whole, oh, look, it's breakfast time over there. I think our puffer was getting ready to dig into one of those clams. They have a heck of a set of choppers. Don't get your finger in there because they have a crushing force that can crack open those clams. It'll do a number on a fingernail. I don't know why I would know that, but I've fed a few puffers in my day. Now this is closed down right now because it's still a little early, but when the barriers come down, our guests can come up. And again, social distancing is really important and was one of the critical ways that we changed the way we operate the Florida Aquarium to welcome you back safely. Standing right here on a clearly marked 6 feet apart for the rest of the world is a way to know that I can socially distance wearing my mask and still get to know Cownose rays. Rays, I like to call them flat sharks because that's what they really are. Rays and the sharks around the world are so critically important. I'm not the shark guy for nothing. We'll talk more about some of the sharks as we see them at our largest habitat. But Cownose rays are right out here in Tampa Bay and out in the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes you'll see them in numbers of schools from dozens to thousands to potentially millions out in the Gulf of Mexico. It's a sight to see. Here you can get to know them and touch them gently, 2 fingers right on the wing, where the instructions are made clear and our interpreters are here to make sure that the animals and the people interact safely. And it's a great way to celebrate the wilds of Florida and the world by getting to know animals up close, wet, and personal. You're gonna hear me say that again. It's a great way to get to know wildlife. Hey, we're gonna step into the second floor lobby now. You're gonna see some pretty unusual art hanging up in the air. That is our wash to shore habitat. But I also see our biologist, Hallie, and she's got something pretty cool to share with us. And speaking of cool, this is our second touch encounter. You just saw the Cownose rays. This is our 3. These are the habitats of the Pacific Northwest from Oregon all the way up to Alaska, around to Japan. You would see all these large cold water anemones and sea stars. When you're here at the Florida Aquarium, you have an opportunity to gently reach in and touch and feel and let them do. This anemone is not just beautiful, but it's sticky. And its little arms, as I'm gently letting it touch my 2 fingers, and I gently pull away because that water's chilly. It is quite cold. It's cold enough for all these animals to be comfortable in their habitat to the point where some of them are even spawning, which is super cool science. They're just living their lives natural as can be. Hallie has got, first off, she's doing it right. She's got her mask on. Mine, like I say, is rarely off for today's virtual tour. But I'm going to tell you what we're looking at there from right over here. Hallie is one of our cherished biologists here at the Florida Aquarium. And the jellies she has in that tube, let's just let you know, that's kind of like their pet carrier to go out for a little jaunt because they're going to go back into their habitat, which is much larger. Those are moon jellies. Moon jellies, because if you look at them closely, first they're nice and round like full moon, but if you look down on them, there's 4 circles, and those are their 4 stomachs. Now, right after they eat their bright orange brine shrimp, they get 4 little orange rings. If you look down over her shoulder to Moon Bay, you see a whole bunch of adult moon jellies. And here's something cool about the jellies, besides the water temp, which is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, they are also raised here at the Florida Aquarium. We spawn our own moon jellies, and they spawn by the thousands. And that means we have jellies, little ones like these that are still growing and will grow up in their larger habitat. And we're gonna also point out our third touch encounter down there, Moon Bay, where you can get up close and touch jellies. Does that sound crazy? Well, we just think it's crazy enough to work because it's a way to help us celebrate something that you might not even know is an important part of the environment. Jellies are an important part of the food web. They're a critical food source around the world because you can find moon jellies in the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, from the shallows to very deep cold waters, where animals like leatherback sea turtles, the largest sea turtles in the world, dive deep to fill their bellies with jellies all day long. But if you look around, you can see a lot more going on here with jellies and their connection to plastics. Look at these beautiful jelly sculptures. All of those sculptures, including that eel right in front of you, are made of washed up plastic, and they're part of the Wash to Shore art installation here at the Florida Aquarium, and brought to you by people that have a real heart for conservation, that want to celebrate that message that we can make a difference in our environment by reducing the single-use plastic that goes into the shores. It goes into the water. And why? Because plastic and jellies look about the same when they're in the water. A plastic bag drifting by can look like a tasty jelly to a turtle, to a whale, to a shark, to a dolphin. And when they ingest plastics, that can be the end of their life. And speaking of which, let's walk through what is not a real whale skeleton. Hallie, thank you so much for everything you do at the Florida Aquarium. Thank you for bringing those jellies. I know you want to get them home before they warm up, and they're going to go back into their much larger habitat to grow, grow, grow. Here we are, we're walking through a rib cage of a whale, but no, it's a bunch of plastic, all this plastic washed up on the beaches of the Pacific Northwest. Now, to say that there's enough to be able to pick out the parts you need to make a whale skeleton alone, much less everything you're going to see on our trail, is another conservation message we can share here at the Florida Aquarium, that you can make a difference out there by reducing your impact on the wild, cutting back on your plastics. We're all about weaving the story of how we care for our animals. You can see folks are working on habitats right now as we get open. We're all about windows. We're all about animal care. It's very important to us. Speaking of windows, the windows are about to get a lot larger. Welcome to Florida's coral reef environment. Here we have fish from around Florida's coral reefs that you might see down the Florida Keys, all the way down to the Dry Tortugas National Park. A beautiful, pristine stretch of coral reefs, as pristine as they can be, in that it is a park where we can snorkel and we can swim and we can celebrate nature. And that is, again, typical of what you might see along the Florida coastline. And corals are such a critical part of the Florida habitat. We're going to speak to them in a little bit. But right now, take in some of the beautiful fish you'd find on the coral reefs of Florida, from that gorgeous queen angelfish over there with a bright yellow tail. And if you look close at the head, you can kind of see a crown there. That's a queen for you. Yas, queen angel. But we also have schools of grunts and triggerfish. And there goes another ray, another flat shark, southern ray, just cruising by. If you dive in the Florida Keys around the Caribbean, recognize a lot of these fish. You'll recognize corals like the elkhorn. We don't see them as much as we used to in the wild, but we're making some efforts to bring them back at the Florida Aquarium. And notice again, we're still enjoying all the art of Wash to Shore. And thank you again to the talents of the artists that bring this to our door. And you can see it virtually or see it when you come to visit us, wearing your mask and socially distanced and enjoying your day. That is a big set of jaws. We have to stop here to look at the megalodon. I am snack size for a megalodon. I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm over 6 feet, and I can still step right in to this jaw and show you just how large sharks used to be. This is where sharks are so cool. Megalodon, a shark that probably spanned about 50 feet long, about 15, 20 meters perhaps, and fed on whales. That's right, large whales. Now, granted, they've been gone for millions of years, but they're part of the cool fossil history. In fact, if you're on the beaches of Florida, look down sometimes, you might just find a megalodon tooth, especially down if you head just a couple hours south to Venice Beach, shark tooth capital of the world. Hey, we're in the tunnel where my voice sounds super cool. But check it out. I think this is a great way that we are getting social distancing measures, literally measures and standards, and interpreted to our guests. We weave it right into the pathway to show you that, hey, 6 feet, that's what we want you to social distance. And guess what? Our sand tiger shark is going to swim by and show you he's social distancing from nose to tail. 6 feet is right about the length of a mid-sized to larger sand tiger shark. That's a shark that you can meet here. Oh, cool. All right. That blue hose tells me that we're going to see something neat when we round the corner. I'll tell you more. Right now, it's just a tease. Just another way we help care for our animals here at the Florida Aquarium. Jacks and permit and schooling fish that you'd see again out in the coral reefs. These fish have grown up with us over the 25 years I've been here. I remember finding these little jacks just an inch long or so in the sargassum or the what they call the weed line sometimes out in the Gulf of Mexico. We might have used seines to find them way back in the 90s. And they're still expressing themselves and living their lives here at the Florida Aquarium. Now we're going through the coral reef mysteries. You have to stop and really pay attention to some of the smaller habitat to know our animals. That's something to come back and visit. Lionfish, for example, one of my first fish, my very first saltwater fish when I was just a teenager. Now they're found throughout Florida's coral reefs, the Caribbean, all the way up the east coast of the US. There's a big message there about responsible pet ownership and just how easy it is to tip the balance by introducing an animal into a new environment. Lionfish are, well, they're probably out in our environment for some time, but we can still use that as an example to help people better understand how they have an impact on the wilds of Florida and the world. Hey, check it out. Social distancing. Here we go. Social distancing. Social distancing. We make it easy for the kids to the adults to know just how to safely enjoy the Florida Aquarium. We've laid out these scuba fins at least 6 feet apart. In fact, there's room here for a couple of folks to socially and still take in, here it is, our panoramic window of our coral reefs of Florida environment. Here you go. If you look in, you can see our sand tiger sharks, our barracuda. Those barracuda have grown from little squirts. It is so fun to watch our animals grow and flourish here at the Florida Aquarium. Tarpon, rays. We've got Charlie, our nurse shark, right over here. We are celebrating sharks and rays, and we have a great opportunity here to connect people with sharks and rays. We've talked about turtles and corals and fish, and sharks are right in there too. One of our big messages is we need to help protect these animals in the wild, but you have to learn about the animals and try to put your fear aside. Sharks tend to be, well, kind of the stars of monster movies, but that's not what sharks are about. Sharks are a critical part of a wild, balanced ecosystem. By helping keep animal populations managed, we can help maintain healthy coral reefs, which is where we get about every other breath of oxygen from healthy coral reef and ocean oxygen production. Right now, yeah, check out that beautiful shark. Wouldn't it be cool to get in the water and meet a shark like our dive biologists right here are doing? Here we go. We've got Brett and Lance, and they are right now doing some habitat maintenance at the Florida Aquarium. They're doing a little gravel washing. So we do windows, we do vacuuming, we do it all. And it's all part of our commitment to the health of our animals. But also, we don't hide the fact that we care for our animals. This is something you might see when you're visiting the Florida Aquarium. Now, rest assured, those corals that he's touching are not real corals. In the wild, we would never sit on the corals, but those are made out of fiberglass and concrete and resin. They're in here to form a habitat and also give you a model and show you how corals look in the wild. We do have living corals in smaller habitats. The world isn't quite growing corals on this scale yet, but hey, the future never knows. Oh, take a look right down there. This is Flip, right on time. Flip is just kind of checking out her environment. Looks like she's coming out of a nap. Flip is a rescue green sea turtle. If you look at her shell on the right side, you can see a little notch out of there, a divot. And that shouldn't be that way. Well, in the wild, Flip was having a tough time. He has likely vote. Now Flip has been with us over the years, but she was having a hard time managing in the wild. Her left rear flipper doesn't work as well as it should. It's got a little bit of buoyancy, which can happen with turtles when they're unfortunately struck and hit in the wild. But she has a home here now for years to come, and one of many turtles that we've helped rescue and give a good home, and many, many more that we have returned to the wild thanks to our efforts. But guess what? We're more than just turtles and sharks that all need our help. We've got animals from around the world at the Florida Aquarium, including Megan and these African penguins. Megan is also socially distancing and probably speaking clearer than me at this moment, even with her mask on, but I'm gonna tell you what she's up to here. Megan is our senior biologist. She has brought three of her African penguins out to say hello to us, and I can't resist. All right, they're so curious. And here we are. Why do we have penguins at the Florida Aquarium? Well, because more than just the animals of Florida need our help and need our attention. Yes, we need to pay attention to our coral reefs and our wildlife around Florida, but these are African penguins. First off, not all penguins live in the cold. From the southern coast of Africa, where it's kind of more like the climate of Southern California, in that it's cold water, but warm beaches and warm sunny temperatures. Their habitat has good chilly water for them, but we also like to bring them out to help people connect with penguins. Not only are they just really fun to check out and watch, you can have a behind the scenes, a backstage pass encounter with our penguins to get to know them closer, where we can tell you the story that penguins in South Africa need our help as well. They're facing a lot of challenges remember how those lionfish where animals are introduced to an environment? Penguins have to fight for their home with cats and dogs. They have to manage with beaches that might be developed where they need to raise their young on the rocky, pebbly beaches that they call their home. They need to compete for fisheries and fish that may be fished out in their environment. It's tough being a penguin. Plus, all it takes is an accident, a climate change, or an oil spill to ruin a penguin's day. And that's why we step in to help. We support efforts like SANCOB in South Africa that is helping rescue penguins. We also have sent our very own biologist over there to hands-on commit. Megan could speak to it. She has been to South Africa and spent time helping wild penguins return safely to the wild, helping their chicks, helping their adults. But we're going to follow the penguins right now and take a very special tour through Waves of Wonder, where now all bets are off, because you're going to see wildlife from around the world, from jelly species that you could find in the Pacific. You're going to find, I like the name of this one, Hidden Pacific, because right now it's hidden. It's still a little early for some of our animals that are nocturnal, and they need a little bit more of their rest before we'll see them later on when we open. But right now the penguins are continuing on our pathway through Waves of Wonder, where we can see upside down jellies, animals from the Pacific Northwest, beautiful Indo-Pacific species, jellies you might find in an Australian lagoon. Come right around here. Well, I cut off a big one. Let's go this way. Check these guys out. Again, another species that can be reproduced at the Florida Aquarium. Right behind these walls, there is some mad science going on. And by mad, I mean awesome and cool. We raise a number of species from those moon jellies that we met in Moon Bay. Here we have Australian spotted lagoon jellies. We have comb jellies that you can find all around the world. If you look at them closely, it looks like they're like, where are the batteries for these guys? But what they're doing is just refracting the daylight with the movement of their teeny tiny combs, which is why they're called comb jellies, and helps them move through the water. No worries of getting stung by any of those if you see them in the wild. But hey, penguins, where have you taken us? You've taken us to HOTS, the heart of the sea. Again, social distancing. Here we go, pens. Let's hang out here. Yeah, and this is a great way to kind of wrap up our tour of the Florida Aquarium. Well, there's more to come, but we're really starting to dive deep into the conservation messaging here. So not only can you connect with animals by diving in habitats, our volunteers, for example, help us out critically in diving in our habitats and helping us with maintenance from a diving perspective. To have opportunities for us to come in and swim with the sharks, swim with the fish, get in the water, get to know the animals wet, close, and personal. Once again, that's the way to really learn to love these animals and help celebrate them worldwide. What is happening with the big ring in the heart of the sea habitat? What that is some enrichment that has been created by our biologist team for our turtle, Sheldon, another rescue turtle, a loggerhead turtle, as opposed to Flip, that was a green sea turtle. Our loggerhead turtle might just be doing. Turtles do well, and that could be somewhere under a ledge, but maybe he will bless us. Well, oh, I see him around the corner. If you look right back there in the alcove where the sun is kind of dappled, you can see him tucked away, see his shell there. Oh, you know what? Someone heard me through the window. I don't think that's possible, but what a great day it will be as Sheldon makes an appearance. This enrichment is for Sheldon. Turtles are curious. I was diving in this habitat yesterday, doing some vacuuming, and Sheldon couldn't get enough of me. Followed me around, watched me vacuuming, interacting like that, creating enriching environments. Even our hogfish are checking out the checking out the enrichment ring right there. Those big, beautiful hogfish that you can find out here in the Gulf, down the Florida Keys, a big species of wrasse. Look at those lips. But here comes Sheldon. Check out Sheldon's neck. I want to point this out. I think this is really important. Why is Sheldon at the Florida Aquarium? Why isn't he out in the wild? But why does he look like this turtle needs to wear a turtleneck? Well, Sheldon was caught and entangled by plastic. There's that word again. Plastic ropes and lines and twine, they don't go away. And our turtle was ensnared in that, but luckily someone found him, brought him to the attention of rehabilitators. He could be rescued here at the Florida Aquarium. Now, it's created some permanent changes to his neck. It's actually narrowed his passages so that when he swallows his food, we have to make it small enough and safe enough for him to eat. Sheldon has a forever home here at the Florida Aquarium, but he is one of many turtles, over 100, that we've been able to rescue and return to the wild via more than just the Florida Aquarium, but we're going to find out about our Center for Conservation about 30 minutes away. But Sheldon needs to stay with us. He wouldn't do well in the wild. In fact, he wouldn't be able to survive out there. Sheldon and Flip are just a couple examples of this, and other turtles that we've been able to help rescue and rehabilitate. And perhaps if they can't go out to the wild, they will spend their time at another aquarium where they can connect with people around the nation. Now we're entering another zone of varieties, beautiful soft corals that you might see on a dive in Indonesia, a snoozing giant Pacific octopus. That's all right, the shades are still down because this nocturnal creature needs a little bit more rest before we open. We always think of our animals' needs first. And around the corner, everyone loves clownfish. Look at those gorgeous anemones. Those long tentacle anemones, which, by the way, cool fact, the more an anemone eats, the more tentacles it grows. That's science. And those are clownfish. Everyone loves clownfish. Nemo's by the dozen. Copyright pending. Here we have jawfish, which are social distancing at its best. Oh, what does jawfish do so well? They're all about social distancing before social distancing was cool. All right, they make their own habitat by piling up the rubble around their hole that they dig with their little tail and their mouth, and the jaws, I mean, they're appropriately called jawfish because those chompers can pick up those rocks as big as their head. And they like to steal from each other. They're just a blast to watch. Beautiful Indo-Pacific species from deeper waters, as well as tube anemones that look like they're plugged in, but they are all natural. And as we continue through the tail end of our tour here at the Florida Aquarium, it's just really clear to point out that you can make a difference in the wild. You can help save our blue planet. You can help protect sharks, celebrate their stories. You can help rescue turtles. You can help celebrate coral reefs and just how critical it is. Hallie is so busy, she's seeing us again. And you know what? What better way to say thank you than with the wall of thanks in every language we could pretty much stumble upon, including thank you, which is an interesting way to say thank you. And right here is a great way to get a little snippet of the conservation work that's happening at the Florida Aquarium, from celebrating the conservation of Madagascar and supporting lemur rescue efforts to cleaning up our beaches. You can do this too. Get out into your parks and your beaches. It all ends up in the water, but if you get it first, it doesn't have to. And that's a beautiful view of the dome where we saw the mangrove forest. Coral reefs are a critical part of our conservation story. We are spawning corals at our Center for Conservation. I'm going to be down there this afternoon helping baby corals make it out to the wilds, where we have repopulated Florida's coral reefs with over 3,500 individual corals over the last couple of years. That's something we're exceptionally proud. I'm personally proud of, and that I've been able to see it develop and grow over the last 25 years. Here we are at the third and final of our encounters with wildlife, our touch experience at Moon Bay. Check out those beautiful moon jellies. What's really neat about them is there's those 4 stomachs we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like a clover leaf. And the lighting is what's changing. The animals aren't changing color, but it just shows you the beauty of an animal you might have not thought about much before. This is also a really unique way to encounter jellies. This globe is a habitat to these jellies. You only see about 3 of these in the United States. I think we're doing it pretty well. It's a way to encounter jellies. We're also social distancing out here. Nothing changes throughout the habitats. We want to make sure that you are safe. We'll guide you through your experience. There's always a Florida Aquarium ambassador here to make sure you have a terrific time. And with no further ado, I'd like to say thank you everyone for celebrating Florida Aquarium with me today, our tour. I'm open to questions. Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Thank you so much, Eric, for this wonderful tour. I can see a lot of people in the chat box commenting like what a great tour guide you've been and you are.
Super.
They love your enthusiasm, your passion, the passion that you talk about the animals and the species out there.
Yeah,
So
I'm proud to be here. I'm so happy that we're open, and I'm proud to be a part of our family.
nice. So actually, and you've told a lot, and there are still so many questions coming in. So when you're ready, let's
Sure.
start with the Q&A.
I am ready right now. Yeah,
Nice.
let's have Adam.
Okay, so
Perfect.
the first question is from Anne-Marie. Is the Florida Aquarium predominantly a public educational institution, or is it a research institute?
Oh, why choose? We started as primarily a public aquarium. We opened back in 1995 on March 31st. In fact, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. We're continuing to celebrate into 2021. Get here soon, 2021. Yes, but we have also grown our conservation to where we have the Center for Conservation. You can check that out on our Florida Aquarium website as well and get updates from there, where we have not one, but two large green glass greenhouses. Now you might think, what are they growing in there? A bunch of plants? We're growing corals. We're spawning corals. We're innovating ways to reproduce corals in a research facility that's not been done around the world. We're really breaking ground, which can make a huge difference for wild conservation. It also brings attention. It's in the news. CNN is here to say, what is going on? We're spawning corals. When corals spawn in the wild, it happens about once a year, but we're using groundbreaking techniques along with our partners in the UK that are helping us learn more about coral reproduction so we can do it in the lab environment, which means we can really control it, increase our productivity, and scale it up. So we're not just taking corals by the hundreds or thousands out to the wild, but in the future, we look to millions of corals in combination with other research institutions around the country and the world. We're also rescuing turtles at our new Turtle Rescue Center, which, gosh, I think we just passed a one-year milestone for the opening of that. We're helping hundreds of corals get back out to the wild that otherwise wouldn't have a chance. So we are combining groundbreaking research with a public experience, and both of those messages are woven into this habitat tour. And in the future, you can look towards even finding out how you can visit our Center for Conservation. That's further down the road. But right now, we have got some amazing science going on.
Super interesting. And then another question, why were the pelicans hunted? Was it for food?
Oh, you know, I wish I could say that pelicans were hunted simply for food. Those were different times back then. And hunting food was part of it, but not so much with pelicans. It was mainly just for sport. They were target practice. They're an easy pick. They're low flying, they're slow flying. If you ever see them out in the wild, if you drive over to those beautiful St. Pete or Clearwater beaches over in Pinellas County from Tampa, when you're going across the Gandy Bridge or the Courtney Causeway, you're likely to see what looks like a squadron of pelicans flying in formation, just a little off the water. Brown pelicans are fascinating because they are the only pelican species of about 7 worldwide that fly high and then boom and dive on the water, smacking it with their puffy chest where they can stun little fish that they gulp into that big iconic bag of a bill. But yeah, they're kind of just hunted for target practice, but we changed our ways back in the 50s, and we can still grow more and more to protect our wild animals by creating the Endangered Species Act back in the late century, about the 1970s or so of the U.S. History. We have been able to bring animals back, from the alligators to the brown pelicans. We're looking at how we can still protect the Florida panther. And we have many, many more examples of how this kind of legislation can really help animals, and even looking to our oceans too, to how we can protect more and more species. So yeah, brown pelicans weren't given a very good shake decades ago, but they are making a comeback. Also, another one of these was changing the regulations of chemical uses like DDT. It was softening the eggs of a lot of wild species. Think of our iconic American eagle, to the condors, to the brown pelicans. So by looking to the needs of wild animals and seeing how we can improve their environment and how we can change our regulations to protect them better, we've had some great success stories. And then we have to help the ones that still have accidents with entanglements with plastic, like fishing line. If you pick that stuff up before you go home from the day of fishing, you're doing a really good thing for the wilds. Little things like that can make a big difference.
Yeah. And then, do you have an octopus in the aquarium? If so, what kind?
We do.
Okay.
Oh, yes. We have a giant Pacific octopus. We went past that habitat because it's a bit early. Our giant Pacific octopus still needs its beauty sleep, It's more than that. We respect their daylight cycle. That's an animal that lives in the darker crevices of the Pacific Northwest. You might be lucky enough to do a scuba dive in the colds of Oregon or Washington or all the way up to Alaska. I've been there myself, and super exciting to see these animals in the wild. They also need that security of their habitat where they've got lots of nooks and crannies, get their privacy. So you might walk by the habitat of the giant octopus, as big as they are, 75, 100 pounds or so. You might not see them. They camouflage, they change their body shape and texture and color to disappear into their environment, but they can see you. They have excellent eyesight. Giant octopuses in general, absolutely one of my favorite animals. And you can meet a giant octopus right here at the Florida Aquarium, but not this morning, still snoozing.
And what kind of octopus could be found in the wild in Tampa?
Oh, right. Well, in Tampa and the Gulf, potentially in the Bay, but probably more so in the Gulf of Mexico, you can find 2-3 different species, including the pygmy octopus. I believe it's Juvini. They don't all have common names. You can find reef octopuses down in the Florida Keys. You can find the common octopus, the Octopus vulgaris, 3-4 different species of octopuses, as well as squid species that you can find in our Gulf and our Atlantic. A coral reef dive in the Florida Keys, you might be lucky enough to see a reef octopus. They get some good size to them. They like to interact with divers too. They're exceptionally curious, intelligent animals. Absolutely a favorite.
Super. And then Shane wants to know, did the animals miss the visitors when they were not able to come to the aquarium?
Oh, that is such a terrific question. You know, I tell you what, we certainly missed the visitors. We're so happy. I was here the first day when the visitors came back. And I know the animals see them too, the otters, the birds, the lemurs, the octopus. You can see them as we go by, the turtles, the hogfish. They're curious animals. Those crowds coming up and peering through the windows, just remember, they're all looking right back at you. You can see 2 ways through even our 12-inch thick acrylic window at our largest habitat, our coral reef. Those animals, you can definitely tell a difference between when the guests are here and the guests are not. You see it in the wetlands habitat. In fact, the birds are kind of like, hey, there's nobody here. Why are we sticking to the habitat? Let's go for a walk. And while the guests are back now, our blue jay loves to go explore, get up close, do a little chirp. You saw it before with our black-bellied whistling duck, that they are like, where are the guests? I need to tell them about my girlfriend. Yeah, I would say so. I think that's certainly a subjective thing, but if I could speak for the animals, I'd say I'm sure glad to have the guests back.
All right. And then a question about the jellyfish, actually right behind you. How did you install the jellyfish in the glass globe behind you? What's the process? Because it looks very complicated to not make any water bubbles and not harm the jellyfish.
Yes, all of the above is true. This is quite a task to take on to get this jelly globe operating perfectly. I have a lot of terrific colleagues. And in fact, Libby Nichols, our senior biologist here, big props to her for spearheading this and making this habitat and touch environment really, really work and really shine, literally shine. And it's terrific because yes, we've got flow going. It's really important to make sure that when the water returns to the sumps, when you close that loop of water cycling, that no air is injected into the sump. So we can run the water through what looks like a big tube sock, but it helps break down some of the bubbles so that they don't return to the habitat. Because it sounds like we have someone who knows a little bit about jellies because air and jellies mix. So get bubbles in their dome. It can even get into their tissue. So it's really important that we ensure the health and safety of all of our animals, even the jellies, even if they can't thank us for it, even if they had a brain to thank us with, they've got a nerve net, but they are well taken care of. The wellness and health and safety of all of our animals is top notch. So yes, part of it is controlling bubbles, returning to the habitat. We wouldn't use aeration in the sense that you might use it in any of the other environments where a few bubbles in the water are great for breaking up the surface. So it is very unique. And like I say, there's only a few of these designs that started in Japan. Again, terrific colleagues up in the Pacific Northwest kind of brought this tech over to the United States. And I think it's really important to show that it's not just the Florida Aquarium here, but we confab. We communicate with aquariums and professionals all around the country. It's one of our favorite things to do, to share ideas so we can all improve the care of our animals around the world.
All right. And then
but it was tricky. Plumbing is something that you learn as an aquarium professional. Yes.
Okay. And then somebody wants to know, you mentioned that the batfish is one of your favorite, but what is basically your #1 favorite animal species in the aquarium?
Oh boy, picking the favorite. Okay, would you ask a parent to pick their favorite child? Sure, they probably have one, but they'd never admit it. I like to think it was me, but yes. So it's hard to decide because I get excited about our animals. Every time I walk through, I see a behavior from an animal I didn't expect. I see something new that makes me think, now you're my favorite. You know, I may be the shark guy, and I absolutely love our sharks and celebrate them. And I want everyone to love our sharks. Why, you might ask? Because everybody already loves dolphins. There's a lot of great animals out there that you don't have to convince people to love turtles, but you can convince them to love jellies. They might say, I got stung by a jelly at the beach. It's like, that jelly, oh, you're probably in its zone. But then let's learn about the jellies together. Let's learn about safety at our beaches. If I had to find the favorite animals, the spoonbills, when they started as just young spoonbills, just a couple, and then decades in, they matured enough that they started a family. I couldn't have been more proud to look up into the rafters and see this little nest, big nest, right over the public pathway, gravity being what it is. I knew we had a challenge ahead of us, but so excited to see little heads popping up out of that nest, and we were growing a spoonbill family, and now we have a couple of years into it, our spoonbills are mature enough to maybe start their own families, and we can help grow a species that was once again hunted in the wild, in this case for pretty pink feathers. That's all it took. So I would say also one of my favorite animals is every guest that comes to the Florida Aquarium. I get so excited to share our message with them, how they can be a part of that story, to get excited about sharks, turtles, corals, to even know that corals an animal you can be your favorite. An animal that grows an entire habitat and home and provides a home and shelter to animals all of along our coastlines that are critically endangered in the wild right now, but that we're doing something to help tell that story and bring them back from the brink. One of my favorite creatures isn't even an animal. It's the mangrove forest. To watch that grow from those tiny propagules, it looks like we're sticking green beans in the sand, and to see a towering forest here decades later, it creates a home for all those animals. I couldn't be more proud of our mangrove forest. I go back to the folks that I opened the Florida Aquarium with and thinking of how hard we worked sticking these in the sand and wondering if it was ever gonna work, and nothing been done like it. Boy, it's just a shining example of what we can do together.
Nice. I love the way you answer the questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
you were
so
expecting sharks, but there you go.
Talking about sharks, how come they don't eat the other smaller fish in the tank?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. The sharks eat the other animals in their habitat. Could they? Sure, they're sharks. Will they? Probably not. Hunting fish is a lot of work. Those fish are also wily. It's their home too. They've got lots of space and habitat. They've got areas to get away, to call their own. Sharks got to catch them. Also, sand tiger sharks are pretty specific about what they eat. They're nurse sharks too. They also have learned to work with our biologists. Our biologists give them feeding stations. When we go to feed that big habitat of 500,000 gallons, by the way, of salt water that we bring in from the Gulf of Mexico and purify and use in all of our habitats throughout the aquarium. A lot of engineering goes into it. A whole team of life support engineers goes into it. So that said, those sharks have a habitat that they can call their home, and so do all the smaller denizens in there, the fish, the eels, everything that you see. We also offer them food on a regular basis. That is not to say that we overfeed the animals, that the sharks have had so much to eat. Sharks, we want healthy animals on a managed diet. By spreading out the feeding team that's up there, we don't just sling the food out into the water. That might be a part of the story of little pieces for little fish, but also target feeding the individual. Pretend that's a shark. I'm target feeding with a long pole with a clip to make sure that shark gets fed. This moray over here gets fed by another biologist. The rays get fed by the biologist over here. The turtle gets fed over here. That way we prevent accidents where everybody goes to the same place to eat. Everybody has a seat at the table. So managing how the animals are cared for in a human care environment, their habitat is part of it. Also, it's just not a shark's nature to just eat like a movie shark does. Sharks can be finicky. I've worked with sharks for over 30 years now. Sometimes the hardest days are just seeing what they're interested in. Will they eat today? But they also are exceptionally efficient. They don't need a lot of food. Our biggest sharks eat about 2% of their body weight a week. I intend to eat that much at lunch. It is just a very different world for an efficient animal like a shark. Doesn't have to heat up a whole body. Like I say, think of them kind of like a Prius. They get by on a little bit. Whereas I guess I'm more like an SUV.
All right. And then Mark wants to know, do you have any rare species that are found nowhere else in the world? If so, what are they? Could you hear
I'm
the
going to ask
question?
you to repeat that question. You cut in and out just a little bit. I heard
Okay.
most of it. Species from maybe other parts of the world. Was that the question?
Yeah, I can repeat the question. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me?
Please
Okay.
do. Please do. I want to make sure I hear it. Yeah.
Okay. So
Sure can.
do we have any rare species that are found nowhere in the world? And if so, what are they?
Okay, so you're asking if we have any rare species, perhaps not found elsewhere, like maybe critically endangered species, not found elsewhere in the world. Anything that was probably out wouldn't likely be out in our habitat. So I would say the animals you're going to see here at the Florida Aquarium, there's kind of two ways to look at that. We do have animals that are common in the wild, like a lot of the fish you might have seen, but it's also really important to point out, even an animal like the sand tiger shark, sharks in general in the wild, their numbers have dropped sometimes up to 90% for some species like hammerheads, for example, just a beautiful species, due to overfishing and bycatch and accidental catches. Sharks that can be hunted, up to 70 million sharks per year that we would lose to various methods of hunting. So those are animals that are getting more and more rare, and being able to encounter them in the aquarium and getting to know and love them is a big part of the way we start to protect them. Our corals are one of the most critically endangered species in the wild. However, we're growing them and propagating them. So they might be common in our aquarium, but their numbers are dwindling in the wild just over the last few, not even decades, but years, frankly, months. The habitat is changing for them as waters warm and as climate changes and shifts. But that doesn't mean we have to give up on them either. Our efforts help bring attention to their cause. So we do have some exceptionally rare animals that are becoming less likely to see elsewhere in the world. But we don't have the last of anything, and we hope that's never a story that we have to tell.
Okay, thank you, Eric. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for
Absolutely,
today.
my pleasure.
I, for one, could listen to all the stories you have, for a longer period of time. But
I will tell them.
we reached the end of this live event, and I would thank you for joining us, the audience, for this Tiqets Awakening virtual experience. And as mentioned before, all the recordings of our Awakening Week's virtual experience, including this one, will be made available online in the coming week. And then if you're enjoying this virtual experience, make sure you sign up for some of the upcoming virtual experience or during the US Awakens through tiqets.com/blog/awakening weeks. And last but not least, I would like to thank Eric, Amy, Megan, the penguins, all the animals, and the rest of the team for arranging this magnificent tour. Thank you so much again for everybody at home joining, and we are looking forward to finding more ways to culture with you again soon. So thanks everybody. Fantastic. And have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye there.
Can't wait to see you.